So the first thing that we're going to do in this chapter is deal with converting units within the imperial system and then within the metric system. So for example, in section 6.1, we might have something like converting from inches to yards. I mean, that's a pretty easy one, but that's the kind of thing we're talking about. In the second section, we might have in the metric system units of kilograms to micrograms or milligrams. And then after that, we're going to try to do conversions between the two systems. So how do you convert, for example, from kilometers to miles? Or how do you convert from square feet to square meters? Finally, in the last section, we'll have more complex conversions, which I will defer to our lesson on Friday. Now, there's a lot of conversions. Excuse me. There's a lot of conversions in terms of the quantities, and you could really make up virtually not a limitless number of questions, but enough questions that you could keep yourself busy for a very long time. You're not responsible to memorize these conversions, although it is encouraged that you try to retain the most critical ones. So through your experience in construction, you'll see over and over again that you see things like, for example, feet to meters, or vice versa, or kilograms to pounds, miles to kilometers. These are very common ones to know. So I'm not saying that you should that you need to have them memorized in this course, but you should have them memorized just in general to assist you in your field of study. This booklet has several little tables of unit conversions. If you flip right to the last page, which I'm going to just show you right now, there's a giant table there. I've highlighted it in yellow, so when you're looking through our lecture notes, you can find it quickly. Although this is the last page, it's pretty easy to find. These are the tables that are going to relate to the sections. The first table will be imperial to imperial, second will be metric to metric, and third will be imperial to metric. And we can use these tables to do all the questions in the book. So during the lesson today, I'm hoping that some of you will have the book beside you, and you will. So if I ask for a conversion, that you can tell me in the chat what the conversion is. These three tables are actually filtered from the entire booklet, so you can see here I kind of filtered them out. So let's take a look. As I scroll up on the side here, there's the third table. And you keep on going, and you'll see the second table, and then the first table right there. Coming up, where is it? Right there, okay? So really, the tables are located strategically, but also at the end of the booklet. So let's get going. We're going to talk about converting units within the imperial system. In this first hour, I want to cover these two sections, just exercises, and I'm going to use something called the brackets method. The brackets method, or sometimes called the unit fraction method. And I'll explain that to you. I do believe that you've seen this before, because I have used it in class on many occasions. But even if you haven't, I think you'll find it very easy to remember. So let's go to conversions from the imperial system to the imperial system. On page 6, our first table is here. We have conversions here that I would say that most of you know, at least half of them. You should know, for example, hopefully feet to inches, yards to feet to inches, miles to feet would be something maybe not common. Pounds to ounces, you probably know. Here's a nice one. A ton is 2,000 pounds. Now there's two different types of tons. There's the ton spelled T-O-N, which is 2,000 pounds. And then there's T-O-N-N-E, the longer word. That's the metric system, and that's something different, which we'll cover in the next section. If you want to know quickly what it is, it's roughly 2,205 pounds. You don't have to. I'll write that down later because it's in the next table. And then you have some conversions about gallons and acres and cubic feet per volume. Now, if you look in terms of how the author does it here, you can try it this way where you want to convert from something to something else. You can do this where you multiply or divide by a number. And I like this approach. I'm going to use an alternative approach in terms of the exercises. So that way you can have the examples that the author uses in the book, plus you can have the examples that I do using the unit fraction method. And they're both effective and they're both reliable to do. So you can choose to do whichever way you like ultimately. So I'm going to go right to the exercises. And the exercises are located on pages 9 and 10. So there's a whole bunch of conversions here, as you see. There's feet to inches, or square feet to square inches, cubic feet to cubic inches, and then other things like cubic yards to cubic feet, etc. I've chosen from this section 6 questions, so 4 from this multiple short question here, and then a couple of word problems later on, leaving you with a couple of word problems to try on your own. Of course, the answers are located at the end of the section, so you can check them out. So let's do our first conversion. Let's go. Here we go. Question 1A. Convert 1.544 feet to inches. All right, so I'm going to count on you in the chat here. What do I do? Let me know, how do I do this? How do I convert feet to inches? Thank you, Sanjit. So, hopefully you found that easy. So the short answer is to do this. 1.544 feet times 12, whoops. And you get, thank you, good morning to you too. I'm going to put your 18.5 inches. Nothing wrong with your answer, but for some people, they'll be like, do I multiply or do I divide? And this is the issue that really burns in some people, is like, do I multiply or do I divide? So if anybody in the audience is like, I'm not really confident about multiplying or dividing or choosing the correct one, let me show you the approach that I'll use in today's class for most of the questions. It's all good, Alexandria. I'm having trouble keeping my voice today for some reason. That's why I'm pausing there and sipping my tea to clear out the windpipe there. Anyway, so welcome to the class this morning. So in this case, I'll show you how I would approach the question to build confidence. So if I have 1.544 feet, do you recall that we did this earlier in the semester, somewhere at least? We know that 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. Now, I'll ask you a very basic question to remind you about this. If I multiply this by 1, when I multiply by 1, do I wreck it? Do I change it? Is it okay to multiply by 1? Let me know in the chat. Does multiplying by 1 do anything bad? Does it change the value? It's a very, very quick question. Does multiplying by 1 do anything bad? Thank you, Nicholas. When you multiply by 1, you don't break anything. You don't break anything, okay? Because you're just multiplying by 1. When you multiply by 1, you get back itself. Now, I'm not going to multiply by 1 because that's boring. What I am going to do is multiply by this. 12 inches over 1 foot. Why would I do that? Well, first of all, let me ask you in the chat there again. Is that thing highlighted equal to 1? Is this fraction equal to 1? Yes or no? Is this fraction equal to 1? And there is silence. Yes, it is. Thank you, Nicholas. Can you tell the class why it's equal to 1? Why do you think it's equal to 1? You are correct. You You can type it, you can say it on the mic, whatever you like. Because 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. Good. When you have a fraction and the bottom and the top are the same, they're equal, when the denominator equals the numerator, then that fraction equals 1. And therefore, this fraction, since it's equal to 1, when I multiply it by this thing here, I don't ruin the units. I don't alter the amount that it measures. So when I take a look at this here, you could put 12 over 12, for example, exactly. For this question here, I just gotta change my formatting for a second. For this question here, I need to use inches and feet like that because my objective is to cancel out the feet. See that? Now the feet cancel. And then you get the answer that Sanjit wrote earlier, which was 18.5 inches. That's the method that I'm going to be using today, okay? That is the method I'm going to be using today. Let me know in the chat. This is very important to me for the lesson today. Let me know in the chat if you understood what I just did. We're going to do lots more. I just want to get a feel for where everybody is with this one. Give me a yes or a no. Yes or a no, or need more. I need more. Yeah, Cosimo. Yeah, exactly. You just multiply by 12. Now, why am I doing it like this? The reason I'm doing it like this is because there's going to be unit conversions later that are not obvious to you. Like everybody, I think here, it feels obvious that you multiply by 12 because there are 12 inches in a foot. But sometimes you might forget, do I multiply or do I divide? And this is why this saves us, because in this question here, we could have drawn the fraction one way or the other. Like we could have put 12 inches over 1 foot, or we could have put 1 foot over 12 inches. But we needed to put the fraction this way to cancel the feet out. Next question. What's different about this question is the squared. Sanjit is correct. You do multiply by 144. Now, some people will get this wrong because they think that they have to multiply by 12. But Sanjit, your answer is correct. But what I'm going to write on the screen is going to help people understand why you multiply by 12, 12, or 144. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 12 inches over 1 foot. And then if I do that, let me know in the chat. Do these things cancel? Oops. Does this cancel with this? Let me know. Be very clear about that in the chat. No. Can you tell the class why they don't cancel? Nicholas and Jit or whoever else. Why don't these cancel? Because they're not the same. Specifically, there's a square here. You see the square here? That means that there's feet times feet. So in the conversion, we need to do this twice. So that's why it's 144. I could put this in a bracket and square it, but I'm going to leave it expanded because it's easier for me to present, and it's also a lot more, it's less demanding on you in terms of exponent laws. So in this case, now I can cross out the feet squared with these guys here. And now you can see that it's 12 by 12. See, 12 by 12 is 144. Anybody have a value on that? What is that approximately to 3 sig figs? 200 something, is that right? 200. I got that, but I'm trying to do that in my head. Can someone confirm? Okay, thank you, Marco. So Marco's confirming 222. Thank you. So when you have an area conversion, you need to multiply by 144. For those that want to see this the other way, when you go from feet to inches, you multiply by 12. And when you go from feet to inches to, from feet squared to inches squared, you multiply by 12 squared. So you could use that logic here for the next one. But this time, because you're going the other way, you're going to divide by 12. And because it's a volume, you're going to have to cube the factor. So this thing here that I'm writing in purple is the reason that I'm not really going to try to use it too much in this course. Thank you, Sanjit. The reason I don't like using this in the course is because I can't justify it to you fast. And I don't like to just wave my hands and just say memorize. So for this question here, we're going to do it using the fraction method that I've outlined. When it comes to you doing your assignments, you can use whichever method you prefer, but make sure that you write down your steps. So at least I know that you understand the logic in case the answer is not perfect. In this case, I want to convert to inches cubed and then go to feet cubed. So can I ask you, this fraction here, do I just write 12 inches over 1 foot? Can someone tell me in the chat, is that a good idea? Let me know in the chat. Why is that a bad idea? Why is that a bad idea? Because they're not going to cancel. Yeah, we need to cancel. And also because you want to divide. Now, I'm not trying to do it. I'm trying to get the answer, but I'm just saying here, let's say I didn't know this. Forget about this for a second. So the issue is that I want to cancel these out. I can't cancel them because this guy's on the top and this guy's on the top. So I need to get the inches to the bottom so that they cancel. So that's the logic with these fractions. And because it's three-dimensional, it's a cubic inches, I will introduce the factor 3 times. And that should give us the correct answer. So we already have it in the chat there. That's going to be dividing by 1728. The answer is indeed what Sanjit has there. I'm just referring to the answer key now. I just opened up the other file. So that's going to be 0.579 cubic feet. And you can see here the cubic inches, 1, 2, 3 of them. They all cancel. And then you're left with feet, feet, feet. So feet cubed right here. So this is called the unit fraction method. And hopefully it's something that you can use when situations arise where the conversions are not obvious. Now we got a feet to miles. I think I remember that there's about 5,000 something feet in a mile, but because growing up here, I didn't use a lot of imperial calculations, it's not something that's burned into my long-term memory. I do believe it's 5,280, but I don't want to put money on that, so I'm going to look it up in the table. Let's take a look if I was close. Yeah, 1 mile is 5,280 feet. If you didn't have that memorized, it doesn't affect you in this course because you will have a table available. I would recommend that you just print the last page if you can print it, or just have it on the side. What I do want to say though is for tests or assignments or quizzes or whatever, make sure that you do it by hand using the table in the notes. So if you use a software on your phone or you Google the answer, then I would consider that not full marks. I want to see your method. I don't care that you got the right answer. I care about the method and the right answer, but primarily the method. So Do not Google the conversion. 2,300 feet times, now we just said that a mile is so many feet, but I do know this. I got to put miles on the top and feet on the bottom because I need the feet on the bottom to cancel with the feet over here. So that's the first thing I do. Then I write down the numbers that relate these two. So I know that 1 mile is 5,280 feet. And that affords us a very quick calculation here. So if you convert that, that's going to be 0.436 miles. And that's another conversion of this type. I did go very slow with these early conversions, and I am confident that most of us here won't have too much of a headache trying to do these conversions. So if you're wondering, why am I doing this fraction thing here, this unit fraction method, it comes in handy when things get messy later on. And where I don't want you to like kind of guess if you multiply or divide. I want something a bit more robust. Let's do a couple of word problems, and then we'll do the exact same procedure with the metric system. And then after that, we'll take a break. So probably we're going to do another dozen questions or so, including 2 or 3 word problems before we take that break. So here it is. A rectangular building lot measures 100 by 200 feet. How many acres does it cover? Lots of ways to do this. Lots of ways to do this, but the first thing that I would do is just find the area in feet. In square feet, sorry. What's the area in square feet? What's the area in square feet? You don't need a calculator for this. We have 100 feet by 200 feet. Just count the zeros. How many zeros do I write? Let me know. Thank you, Marco. So I write 4 zeros because there's 2 zeros here and 2 zeros there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Count the zeros. Now we want to convert from square feet to acres. So 20,000 square feet times something. The reason I like this method is because it's like you're setting it up, and then it's kind of like when you play basketball, you're getting an assist here, you know, like this is the assist, right? You write this down, and then someone else gets the slam dunk. So foot and acre. So let's go look up that. Can someone tell me how many square feet are in an acre? That conversion is a one-stepper. You don't have to do 2 fractions here. So I'm looking on the side here. It's 40,000 something. Can someone look up that number? How many square feet are in an acre? Thank you. Thank you, Marco. 43,560. I'll put a comma in there so we don't get too much of a headache trying to count all these zeros and place values. Notice that this time, because acre is an area quantity, we only use this conversion one time over. And I've seen this before, where people will use this number here and they think they have to divide it twice because it's something squared. But you just focus on the fraction. As long as the bottom and the top are the same, then you realize that you're only converting it with one division. You're not dividing 43,560 2 times over. Now my slashes that I just wrote are going to move along in a second, but I'll fix that. So if you do the math on that, that's 0.459 acres. And let's fix these guys here. Let's just magically move them over. Yes, it does go that slow. I know I don't usually highlight and swoop like that. Anyway, here's a question involving a volume. Hopefully nothing too dangerous. So it says here that a concrete garage floor must be poured into the shape of a flat rectangular box that is 25 by 15, that's feet by feet, and then we have 4 inches deep. So there's a mixture of units here. Strategy. Let me know in the chat. What do we do here? What do we do here? What do you want to do? There's lots of ways to do it. Okay, so Marco is thinking to convert the inches to feet because then they're all in feet, and then you can go to yards later, cubic yards later. I agree with you, Marco, on that one. I think that's pretty slick move. So I'm gonna do that here, okay? And I'm not gonna use fancy conversions because this one here is not too dangerous. So we have volume equals, just 1 second. So volume is length times width times height, which is 25 feet, 15 feet, and 4 inches. Those 4 inches, what Marco is saying is to just divide it by 12. So I'm going to go 4 divided by 12 right off the bat. You see that I'm not trying to be like inflexible here. I do want to be able to adapt, and when there's an easier calculation within a bigger question, you don't have to write as much. Anyway, 125 is correct. Thank you, Marco. So what are the units there? Can someone let me know what the units are? Are they in dollars? That's a joke. Is it feet what? Feet to the, thank you, cubic feet. So let's do the conversion now. We want to convert from cubic feet to cubic yards. So we're going to have 125 cubic feet. And we need to convert to cubic yards. I know that with yards on the top and feet on the bottom, so that these feet cancel. We also have to do it 3 times because it's cubic. But before we get there, because it's cubed, I should say, I know that in 1 yard, there are 3 feet. So the conversion will involve dividing by 27. And when you do that, you get 4.63 cubic yards. Where did I get 27? 333. When you divide by 333, if you multiply those, you get 27. And that's a nice thing, is that I love the fact that I can say to you, see, 27 is not something that's obvious to people, but dividing by 3, 3, and 3, as I did here, it's right there explicitly explaining to you that you need to do it 3 times because the feet is cubed. The units of feet are cubed. So anyway, these questions hopefully didn't take up too much of your energy, and we can move on to the metric system now, which is probably another, I'm just looking on the side here. I picked, let me see here, about 10 questions or so. Some of them are quick, so don't worry, they're not a lot of calculations involved. So we'll get to them. The nice thing about the metric system is that the conversions are very fast. So in the second section, we have the following. This is the metric system, and these are the units that you typically can see. Like, you can see units involving the M, which is milli, like millimeters. Or you could have K, which is kilo, or kilograms, or kilometers, things like that. Anyway, the nice thing about the metric system is that these numbers here, sorry, they are numbers, G, M, K, etc. These prefixes that occur on the units are really just numbers. So G, which is giga, like gigawatts or gigabytes or whatever, that unit, that quantity is 10 to the 9, because giga means billion. Capital M is mega, and that means million. And then you can work your way down the list here, like kilo. is 1,000, and then milli is 1/1000th. And then you can get to really small ones, which we're not too concerned about in construction. So we're not going to dive into those, but you have nano and micro. You'd probably see those in this industry. You might see them if you're doing like an analysis on a material. If there's some type of a fracture or failure, you can say that there's cracks that have micrometers of length or width. Anyway, in terms of the unit conversions for the metric system, there's a table as well. Remember, there's 3 tables in this booklet that are summarized at the end on the last page. So this is the second table, and it just illustrates the most important of the conversions for the metric to metric calculations. I'm not looking to do too many weird things like micro to mega. I'm just picking ones that are the more commonplace ones to use. Maybe on an assignment, I'll get creative and do something there, but not on a test. On a test, I'm just going to keep it pretty straightforward in terms of what you would be expected to understand. So just soak in that table for a minute as I do some work in the background. I'm just getting ready to do the exercises now. So hopefully you've retained some of these things. Nothing too dangerous here. Maybe a couple things that you didn't know. There's the ton, T-O-N-N-E, and it's 1,000 kilograms. I mentioned earlier that it's also 2,205 pounds. We'll discuss that conversion probably in the next section, and we will do that after the break eventually today. Also, there's liters, which is 1,000 cubic centimeters. And another weird one is the hectare, which is kind of like the metrics analogy to the acre. So on page 16, there are several exercises talking about describing and or converting within the metric system. So I've selected several of them, and it's kind of like just quick bursts of questions. So let's just go through them as best we can, and hopefully it's nice and smooth. So we'll take a look here. It says here, for each of the metric measurements below, write down the name of the unit used and give the type of physical quantity that is measured. Write down each measurement in decimal form if no unit prefix was present. So I'll start you off with the first one to give you an idea of what's going on here. So the unit here is kilopascals. That's what kilopascals means, because the K here stands for kilo. Kilopascals measures, and that's not capitalized, it's just my formatting is automated here. That's pressure. Maybe I just go back a little bit. Kilopascals measures pressure, and if the K wasn't there, if the K was not there, then you would have 59,700 Pascal. So that's what the question's asking you to do. So if you like, try the next one on your own and see if you get the same as me on the screen eventually. For those that are not sure how I got Pascal there, 59,000. What's the confusion about? This thing here has to do with just giving the name of this unit. That's right. Yeah, kilo's 1,000. That's it. I think it was the number. Okay. So I was about to talk about that. So this K here means 1,000. Thank you, Nicholas. So you just multiply by 1,000 exactly. This M here, since we're on a roll, M is a million. So I'll just put a million here, or mega. So when you see M, capital M, it means million. So in this next exercise, we have megawatts. And watt is a measure of what? What do watts measure? Hour is correct. Thank you, Nicholas. And what would I write here? Now, if you're not quick at doing these conversions fast, like quick at doing these conversions in your head, let's just say this, guys. Forget about the point for just forget about the 0.3 for a second, okay? This M here means million, okay? So just write down 25 million. Just pretend it's 25 million. I know that's wrong, but just pretend it's 25 million and then just make that into a 3. This is how I do it in my head really fast because I know it's millions. I know the answer's in millions, so I don't waste time. When I see all these little decimals here, yeah, basically you move the decimal over. But what I'm saying, Nicholas, is just as simple as possible, like in terms of writing things down fast, okay? I don't want to write down this number and move things around. What I'm saying is I know that M here is million, and I know everybody in this group knows how to write down 25 million. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm confident that everybody here knows how to write 25 million as a number. So what I'm saying is just write 25 million and then make that a 3 because there's a 3 after the 5. You see what I'm saying? What I do is I'm talking about in my head how I do it. I don't want to waste time with the decimals. You see that? You see how I'm playing that out? Let's try the next one and see. Like moving the decimals is fine, and you do have a calculator, so I'm not worried about anybody getting the wrong calculation. I'm trying to show you how you do it fast in your head. That's what I'm trying to show you right now. This M here is going to be 0.001. It's 1/1000 or 1/1000. What is the actual, how do you read that unit? Can someone read that unit there? What is the mg, or how do you say it? G is grams. So what does the M stand for? Thank you. So we have milligrams. Yeah, milligrams measures what? What is milligrams a measure of? Weight is slightly different, but yeah, mass is the most. Weight is kind of not right if you're studying physics. Mass is the most appropriate answer. In terms of this one, move the decimal over or multiply it on your calculator, whatever you like to do. But I'll show you what I'm saying here again with my mental math. I'm going to ignore the 2. You see that 0.2 there? I'm going to ignore it. I'm just going to ignore it flat out and put this. Ready? 0.004. See what I'm saying? If you ignore the 2, if you're multiplying this by 4, it is 0.004. Oh, but there's a 2 there. Okay, so just put a 2 there. You see what I'm saying? How cheap that is? Okay. Hopefully I didn't destroy too many brain cells. So whenever you have these weird decimals, if you want to make sure you got it right, you can always just cut out all the decimals and work on just the first significant digit. This is not an orthodox kind of calculation that you're going to see in a textbook. This is me talking to you, me being some out there math nerd that likes to do things in his head. Marco. Okay, yeah. How many centimeters are in a kilometer? Yowzers. So how do we do this? Like, I'll show you. I haven't done the answer, but Marco's answer looks right. So I'm going to show you the way that I would do this. This is not necessarily the only way, but I think this works out really well. If I take 1 kilometer and I divide by 1 centimeter, I'm going to get eventually what Marco's answer is. Marco's saying that if you take a kilometer and you divide by centimeter, you get 10,000. Sorry, 100,000. 100,000. My apologies. So I'll show you how I'm going to do this. What I'll do is I'll convert kilometers into meters, and I'll convert centimeters into meters. And that's it. See? If you divide those two numbers, you get 100,000. So if you're not sure how to do that type of question where it's how many of these are in those, just just make a fraction where you're dividing the two quantities. This fraction here, this doesn't equal 1. This is a fraction that we're reducing. And then you cross out the same units. Yeah. So the way that Marco did it was like this. Marco, if I'm gonna probably do a little bit of a stretch here. So we have centimeters, meters, and kilometers. So this is probably what Marco is saying. I'm trying to visualize what you said there. Marco is saying you multiply by 100, and then you multiply by 1,000. Is that the right idea, Marco? Yeah. So again, if you like the visual, go with the visual. If you want to just divide two things and then cross out the common unit, do that as well. We can play the game with the next question the same way. So I'll do it visually first. So we have here, whoops. We have milligrams, grams, and kilograms. So to go from there to there, we multiply by 1,000. And to go from there to there, we multiply by, there's 1,000 of them there as well. When I say multiply, I just mean there's a factor of 1,000. Let me do it using the fraction approach. And I'll do the one right after that the same way. The 1 kilogram over 1 milligram. I can convert them both to grams. A kilogram is 1,000 grams, and the milligram is 0.001 grams. If I divide 1,000 by 0.001, I get 1,000,000. So that's just the approach using a fraction where you try to reduce the units to a common unit, which in this case is grams. Then you can cross the grams out. Let me do this one a different way so that you can find the way that best fits you, okay? A megawatt contains 1,000,000 watts. A milliwatt let me rephrase that. There are 1,000 milliwatts in a watt. So there are I've noticed in the past that some people need to see it written, so that's why I'm just writing it this time, because maybe that fits better with some people's learning style, hopefully. So I've written it down 3 different ways. I have the fraction approach, I have a visual diagram, and then I have sentences explaining it. I'd be just curious as an audience, of the 3 ways here that I've written it, which one do you like? Which one do you prefer for yourselves? Do you prefer dividing it out? Do you prefer a diagram showing you the path? Or do you prefer sentences explaining it? Let me know in the chat. What do you like? Fraction, diagram, or sentences? I got 1 diagram. Anybody else? Thank you, Marco. Fraction, diagram. Thank you, Alexandria, and thank you, Nicholas. fraction, Alexandria again, fraction, and that's totally cool. I have a feeling that it probably alternate between these two for most people. But there are people that would like this. I know people personally that would like to see it in sentences. That's why I wrote it like that. But anyway, we do have a little bit of time before a break. So I do want to just do about 4 or 5 more questions. And then I promise you I'll be very generous with the break. So here we go. I want you to focus on this phrase right here. Do these conversions without using a calculator. Okay? So, see, moving the decimal point. That's all they're talking about here. Now, you don't have to literally move the decimal point. You can adopt whatever strategy you like. But that's exactly the elegance of the metric system. The conversions are just move the decimal point over. 68 millimeters to meters. So why don't we do this? Why don't we talk about these ones? I'll do it with the fraction approach, and then after that I'll show you with moving the decimal around. So first I'll do it with the fractions, and then I'll do it with decimal movement. So here's it with fractions. We know that there are in 1 meter 1,000 millimeters. We'll do that calculation after. I'm just gonna actually I'll just do it here anyway. So that's gonna be equal to 0.068 meters. Now, most of you will say, John, you don't have to do all that work. What are you doing, buddy? This one here, it's just, you know that M means 0.001. Remember I said that to you earlier? You can do it a different way. You can just say that 68 meters is equal to 68 times 0.001 and then meters. See? Exactly what Cosimo was talking about with Nicholas earlier. The M here, this M here, literally means 0.001. I'll highlight it in color so that you are crystal clear about that. That M there literally means 1,000th. I did click on that. There we go. So you get 0.068 meters. Okay, so why would I go through all of this suffering with you to do it 2 ways when the first way clearly is faster? So for those of you that are like, this second way is not necessary, I agree with you. For this question, you don't need it. Absolutely don't need it. But it's very helpful in the next question because now things are squared and you're not, see here you're just making this M into a number. But here you don't have a prefix. You see, that's the base unit of meters, and now you need centimeters. So you need to introduce a prefix. This question's messed up. So you can't just finesse this one. So, and also it's squared. So there's a couple of issues here. So that's why I like the approach with the fractions for this question. 342 meters squared. I can think of a relationship between meters and centimeters. I need centimeters on top and meters on the bottom so that things cancel out correctly. I also know that in 1 meter there are 100 centimeters. Because this is an area conversion with squareds, I need to write down the fraction twice, giving us the final answer. 342, and start counting zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4 centimeters squared. So this fraction approach that I introduced to you at the beginning today, I hope that I'm convincing you of its usefulness in situations where things start to get weird. I mentioned earlier here that I would show you a visual one on this as well. Millimeters to meters If you were to look it up in terms of a scale, you might say, right, like divide by 1,000. And that's totally fine if you want to do it that way as well. Here's a volume conversion. In this volume conversion, we have to consider centimeters to millimeters cubed, respectively. So this is even funnier than the previous one because now you have a conversion which is not very friendly. So first, before we do this, I'm just going to put a letter just for the font. Can someone tell me on the side here, what's the relationship between centimeters and millimeters? There are 10 millimeters in a centimeter. So this is something that it helps you to maybe just jot that down on the side, because these conversions are not as obvious, but I think millimeters and centimeters is something very natural. I know most of you have measured a lot in the metric system. So 5.45 centimeters cubed. We need here 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. However, because this is a volume conversion, we need to reproduce that 3 times. And 10, 10, 10 is 1,000, so we have 5,450. This one's a bit more plain, grams to kilograms. Many of you know just to divide by 1,000. And if you want to do that, be my guest. I'm going to do it with the fraction approach, recognizing that in 1 kilogram, there are 1,000 grams, meaning we want to divide by 1,000. And then you can certainly just move the decimal point over. Okay, so I know that I went fairly intense with you in this first hour, but I said to you that I would go easier on you in the second hour. Definitely will slow things down in the second hour. The reason that these ones are faster in the metric system are simply because the numbers are more favorable because they're involving powers of 10 in the conversions. You haven't had to pick up a calculator, hopefully, for any of these questions. So let's just do this last question here, and then I'll give you a nice generous break. Find the area of this land in hectares. Well, before we get to hectares, let's just do the calculation. 28 by 16, okay, fine. Maybe you can't do 28 by 16 in your head. That's totally cool. But you can do it on paper by hand. You should get 0.448 meters cubed. But anyway, let's do the conversion to hectares. Hectares, sorry. So how many, sorry, that's squared. That was a typo. Sorry about that. How many square meters are in a hectare? Can anybody remind the class what that is? So 1 hectare is how many square meters? I can look it up for you. It's 10, I think it's 10,000. I know it's 10,000. I'm just trying to coerce an answer from people here. 10,000 square meters. So there you go. So if you do the math on that, you get 0.0448 hectares. Just on a side note here, Okay, so I'm just saying this here because it's a nice thing to be able to visualize these quantities. So a hectare is 10,000 square meters. And I just say here, this is equivalent to the area of a square that it's 100 meters by 100 meters. So I think most of you will be familiar with what 100 meters is. Can you visualize 100 meters? If you've ever done track or anything like that, or if you watch the Olympics, like Usain Bolt or whatever, doing the 100 meters, you have 100 meters, which is basically the length of a track, just the straight part of a track though, not the curve. So if you were to trace out a square that's 100 meters by 100 meters, that's a hectare. So you can think about what in your environment around you would be a hectare. So basically the local track, like a little racetrack for running, not for cars, that would be a hectare approximately, just the area of that track. Roughly, not exactly, but just roughly. Because at least it falls in that ballpark. So when you hear something on the news like there was a forest fire that destroyed, you know, 100,000 hectares, you can start to get a visual on how large of a land that is. That's a significant amount of land. So the prior conversions that we did, many of them were probably familiar to you, mainly because of experience and also because the numbers are nice. Now we're getting into a situation where you have these conversion factors that may not be as obvious to you. This is the third and final table in this booklet that illustrates unit conversions across the two unit systems. By no means does this represent all the conversions possible, but these are the ones that if you were able to memorize as many of these as possible, it would benefit you in the long run. I probably have them all memorized except for the gallons. I always forget the gallons because there's the US gallons and there's the Canadian gallons. And I just know that a gallon is 4 liters approximately. I know that's kind of cheap. It's not exactly right, and it doesn't represent the Canadian or the US gallon, but at least a rule of thumb, to know exactly what ballpark we're talking about. Anyway, there are exercises, plenty of exercises, as you can see right here on page 20. And I just chose all the odd numbered or odd lettered ones. Finally, and just one last one here at the end. So what we're going to do now for the remaining time today is just kind of casually glide through the first 6 of these here, and then we'll do the word problem. And if we finish early, we finish early. You can go focus on your other midterms. So it'll be beneficial to have that table close to you. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit because maybe I can just point to the table as we're doing them. That should be large enough, at least for me to read it. Hopefully some of you can read that, but if you can't, I will be presenting it here as well. So we're going to use the fraction method that I was talking about earlier. So in this case, we have 21.3 inches, and we want to go to centimeters. So to go to centimeters, we need a relationship between inches and centimeters. You can see it in the table here possibly. If you can't read that, don't worry. I'm going to just type the conversion in here as well. I know that we want centimeters, so we have to put centimeters on top. Also, we know that 1 inch, and based on that conversion, it's 2.54 centimeters. If you want a quick estimate, I know 2.54 might not be something that's obvious, but you can just remember it's roughly 2.5 centimeters. At least if you have that, you have a good idea of the amount. So anyway, if you multiply that out, the inches will cancel, and you will get, looks like 21 times 2.5 is around 50 something. Anybody have that value? I don't have a calculator with me. I'm asking for your calculator skills now. 21.3 times 2.54. 50 something? 50, 4. Thank you, Marco. I was destroying my brain cells there trying to figure it out. At least not this early in the morning. I don't like doing 3-digit calculations. I'm kind of lazy for that, to be honest with you. 162 pounds to kilograms. So, if I have a kilogram, how many pounds does that equal? Anybody know off the top of their head or from the conversion on the side? Close. Close, Marco. 2.2 is the closer answer. If you want to be a superstar, it's 2.205. If you don't put the 05, don't worry about it. 2.2 is fine. That's what's in the table, and that's what I would expect. It's something that is memorized. Okay, Cosmo? It's just a conversion that we have to know. It's in the table, yes. Although you can't see the whole table fully here because I can't zoom it in, it's right there, 2.2 pounds. So they're all, anything that I write down here in these conversions is in the table. You're welcome. So if we do this here, we're going to divide by 2.2, so it's going to get smaller. So that's 70 something, I think. Anybody have a number on that? 70, 73, 74, somewhere there. I don't want to do long division. Help me out here. What's 162 divided by 2.2? 73 point. Now I'm doing it in my head. It's not nice. Thank you, Cosmo. Thank you for saving me. I was not feeling that. I was not feeling that right now. I didn't want to go the whole distance there. Okay, so we're gonna go now to the 10th of an inch. 10th of an inch is pretty easy. It just means round to 1 decimal. So when you see here a 10th of an inch, that just means round to 1 decimal place. So that's not a thing out of the ordinary. Don't think that's not like what I've been getting you to do on your assignments and tests. This is a little bit easier anyway. We want meters to feet and inches. So we have 2.85 meters. And there's another conversion right from the table, okay? This is right from the table. 1 meter is 3.28 feet. And if you're like, how did I know that? Because it's memorized, okay? It's just something that I've used enough times in my life that it just comes back like that. Anyway, if you take that number times that number, I unfortunately will grab my calculator due to the unnecessary calculation request that I'm asking you. Anyway, if anybody has a number there, thank you, Cosmo. 9.348 feet. Let's write that down. I like that. 9 point, well, it's actually equal. Yeah, 9.348 feet. Now we need to convert that to feet and inches. So what I'm going to do is, and you've seen this many times with me in the semester already, 0.348 feet, I'm going to multiply that by 12 inches in 1 foot. So if we take the 0.348, and I'm doing it on my calculator as well, you get 4.2. So that gives us pretty much the final answer. I'll just write the answer down here. The answer is 9 feet, 4.2 inches. So that was a little bit of a twist on that question. But hopefully you have it in you to do some more of these. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? Let me know in the chat. How do you feel about the pace? Are you okay with the pace at which I am doing these questions? Please let me know. It's important so I don't destroy anybody here today. Yeah, thank you. I just don't want to ruin anybody today because I know you have a test today and you're all stressed out about that kind of stuff. And the last thing you need from me is to harass you for 2 hours with math. I want to keep it nice and friendly today. Easy, easy peasy today. Okay, thank you for your feedback. Ooh, squared. Yummy. Yummy, yummy. We got squared. So what the heck happens here now? If you don't know how many centimeter in a foot, that might be, it won't be the end of you here, but it might be annoying, okay? So there's lots of ways to do this question. No, there's an assignment due on Friday. Yes, James. But I promise you the assignment is really, really easy. Okay? The assignment is super easy. Yeah, it's one ruler. Thank you. Thank you, Nicholas. That's hilarious. Okay, so I'm gonna just do this. I'm gonna get this to inches, okay? Let's get to inches first. Is there assignment next week? No, because it's intersession week. No assignment next week. It's in the course outline, okay? 100% no assignment next week. Just finish the one for Friday. It's really short. It probably will take you, like I said, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes for you to take a picture of it or to upload it or whatever. It's not a long assignment. Believe me, I'm not trying to lie to you and then you get, mad at me later for lying to you. It's easy, super easy. I would recommend that we go to meters squared here first. Yeah, 30 centimeters. I'm feeling that too. It's not exactly 30 centimeters, but it's good enough. But I'm gonna good enough for like everyday life. But for this question, I'm gonna do it with the meter conversion. So I'm gonna say that 1 meter is 3.28 feet, and I'm gonna do that twice. So I don't have. I'm gonna just do that on my calculator. I just grabbed the calculator while we were chatting. 0.5112 square meters. This is not the answer to the question, but it definitely is going to get us there quickly now. Now we want to do the conversion from meter squared to centimeter squared. So we know that there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter, but that's squared, so we got to do it twice. This conversion is easy because you're just doing a decimal movement. So you're going to move the decimal over 4 times. And I'm going to go with significant digits here. So I'm going to take that 2 away because it's only 3 sig figures. I'll just note that here. So if you wrote a 2 there, just like scratch it out. Nothing's wrong. It's just 3 significant digits. Okay, that's why I did that. So if you multiply that by 10,000, move the decimal over 4 times, 5110 centimeters squared. We have centimeters cubed to cubic inches. This one's a bit more favorable because it's only a one-step question, like meaning that the previous one had 2 lines of writing. This one's only going to have 1 line of writing. So we have 100 centimeters cubed, and whoops, and we know that there are so many centimeters in an inch. I know that 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. And if we did this conversion earlier, like we saw this relationship earlier. So like as you do more of them, they're gonna get programmed into your head, really. And that, if you're wondering how did I learn them, same way that you're learning them. I did about 5 or 10 of them, and then boom, it was automatic at some point. And if it's not automatic, it's all good, because in real life you can always just search it up online anyway. But at least for the purpose of understanding the mathematics, what you're getting out of this class is how to figure out situations where they're not obvious, or you can't just Google it because it's some really messed up units. Anyway, in I am gonna just do that, sort of do that in my head. Anybody have an answer on that? Is it like 6 roughly? I'm guessing it's around 6. I'm gonna grab my calculator and do that now. Yeah, it's 6.1. Okay. If you're wondering how I'm doing that in my head, all I'm doing is I'm doing 2.5 times 2.5 times 2.5 and just rounding that to an integer and then doing that in the hundred. So I know it sounds like a lot, but for those of you that like to practice your mental math, and I know there's a lot of people here that are very quick with your mental math, go for it. Okay, this next one here is interesting because it's inch squared to meters squared. I'm going to screenshot the conversion here. I might be able to just screenshot it and drag it into the file. Just give me 5 seconds while the screenshot renders. I have to wait for it to go to my desktop. It's funny like that. So that's straight from the booklet. So this one's a one and done. This is a one and done, my friends, because we have 1 meter and we have inches right there. See the inches? 39 and change. So let's do that now. So we have here 84 inches squared times, okay, we want inches on the bottom, so we know there's 39.4 inches for every meter that you measure. Then we have to do it twice because the inches are squared. So we have here 84 divided by 39.4 squared. And I'm going to just check that against the answer key. I just opened up the answer key as well. And let me see here. Yeah, that's the right answer. Anyway, that's enough of those kind of 1 or 2 step conversion type questions. The next question is our last question for today, and it really just has a mixture of units that represent different ways to write a volume. And the goal here is just to kind of reconcile all the units in a certain way. It says, find the total of these 3 volumes expressed in liters. So at least the middle one's good. You don't have to play around with the middle one, but the other ones look like they need some work done. So we're going to talk about those conversions. So whatever conversions I write on the page here, whatever I'm going to do, these come from the tables. And if you're like, John, there were a lot of tables today. You're right, there were a lot of tables. But don't worry, if you go to the end of the booklet, the very last page, all of those tables are on the last page. And I highly recommend that you print this page out and you stick it in your binder or your workbook, and you have it available to you, not just in this course, but in all of your technical courses here. So over the next semesters, make sure that you have that available to you, or at least write down the ones you don't know, because they'll come in handy. They will come in handy to be quick at them. So back to our story here. I'm going to talk about the conversion for the cubic feet and the cubic meters. I'm going to start with the 84.8 cubic meters. So this is not like a very linear story. So I'm going to do all the extra steps at the bottom. So all the extra work is down here, and then I'll summarize at the top. Just a second while I fix the alignment. So we have here, I'm going to just tell you flat out that 1 meter cubed is the same as 1,000 liters. This is in the table somewhere above, in the metric to metric one. But this is such an important conversion to know. You should know that a cubic meter is 1,000 liters. It's a very useful one to know. So that makes that conversion really fast. So I know that 84.8 meters cubed is equal to 84,800 liters right off the bat. Okay, so that one's done. We just bold it. So here's the main question. I'm just going to write it down now. So this equals three things that we're going to add up, and we just did one of them very fast. So we have something plus 57,900 liters plus 84,800 liters. Right off the bat, we got one of them quick. So now the goal is to figure out this question mark here. So we just got to figure out the 7,600 one. I'll do that below here. 7,600 cubic feet. We need to get to liters. So let's go back to that table and hopefully we find something useful. So I'm just looking in the table and I have gallons. It's not looking very good. You see what I'm saying here? This is the table here. I don't see anything in terms of cubic feet that's nice. I see gallons here, but honestly, Canadian gallons, you're just asking for more punishment. Unless you want to do the conversion right there. You see we can convert the Canadian gallons to liters. Maybe, you know what, let's do that. Let's do that. Since we have those available, if we're just going to stick to this table, there's lots of ways to do the question, but if we're going to stick to that table, maybe that's the safe bet. So let's go with the safe bet here. The way that I would have done this question otherwise is I would have converted it to cubic meters. I'll use those conversions because they are available to us. So the only reason I'm doing it this way is because those units are right from the table. So I know that we have a cubic foot is 6.23 gallons Canadian. And that's 1 cubic foot. And then I know that 1 gallon Canadian, let's just shove that over there. I know that 1 gallon Canadian is 4.55 liters. So there you go. We have the goods. We have the goods, okay? Multiply that all out. 7,600 so 7,600 times 6.23 times 4.55 is a lot. I got 215,000 something. I'm just going to write that down here. $215,433 liters, which we can import to the previous stuff over here. So this calculation now is getting down to business. We have 215,433 liters. Now they're all consistent. I like that. And I'll just add them up first. So I'm just adding them up on my calculator and getting 358,133 liters. But the question says 3 significant digits, so the final answer will be 358,000 liters. And that, my friends, is enough math for today.